Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Jake Gordon. The Brave season is underway. Hot start, 3-1. Only loss was Jared Shuster, and that's going to be our talking point in this video. Is the Braves rotation? Schuster struggled, man. I know a lot of people want to say, "Oh, he impressed. He bounced back. He threw 4 and 2/3 innings and gave up 4 runs." That's not the worst MLB debut ever, and I give him credit for that. But let's talk about just the overall what it looked like. He let the
Yeah,
six he let the six first guys hit base, and he just had too many uncompetitive pitches. And we talked about it last week when, hey, what are we expecting? What are we looking for? When he gets in a bind, how is he going to react? Well, he loads the bases, gives up a run, and then he walks 2 guys in. Told me all I needed to know about a guy who was MLB ready.
I'm going to meet you in the middle on that. Some would say it's impressive how he bounced back, but you're right. The first inning was not competitive at all, and honestly, it was kind of hard to watch. But hey, it was his first start. That doesn't mean he can't turn into a quality pro. But he got off on the wrong foot, and he got sent down because of it, which I'm sure we'll get to. But he did bounce back. It was a bad Nationals lineup. Thankfully, that was not against Arizona. St. Louis.
Yeah, or the
That would have been
Padres, who he would be
yeah.
scheduled to pitch on Friday.
Yeah. I think they made the right choice sending him back down, let him get his feet wet. But the issue that creates now is who are you going to turn to next? Because I assume now they're going to use an opener because Jared Shuster cannot come back up for 15 more days. And since the move that was accompanied by Max Fried going to the IL was Bryce Elder, that 15-day period isn't waived because somebody was added to the injured list. And Kyle Wright's not eligible till August 11th, the 11th. I think I said that already. But you got 4 guys now. That's the and if Dylan Dodd goes out there and struggles, then you're really looking
might
at
only
an
have
issue.
3 guys.
Yeah.
You better hope that, the good news is the offense is crushing it. I mean, the offense has come as advertised. Acuna is all the way back. I mean, he said it after yesterday's game. He's not feeling any pain, and you can tell. I mean, the power is back. He hit that home run yesterday, and I feel like he didn't even hit it that well. And those were the homers that Acuna was getting when he was in his prime. Like, the ones that you don't hit well that go over the fence, that's what 40 home run guys do. That's what Acuna wasn't getting last year. He had to crush them, and the power, his 2 home runs this year have been just over the wall, and he hasn't really connected with one yet, which I'm sure we will see in the future. But he is all the way back. Ozzie Albies had a homer. He's got 6 hits already through 4 games. The offense is going to carry this team to an over 500 record. But you really got to hope that Kyle Wright and Max Fried, these guys are ready by the middle of April and at late April at the latest. Because like you said, Dylan Dodd has a tough task ahead of him pitching against the Cardinals. Bryce Elder is going to have to pitch against them tomorrow. And both those guys could struggle. And then you're really looking at we only got 3 starters. And who knows? Charlie Morton looked okay, but he's been kind of shaky over the last year. So then you're really down to Spencer Strider. And what else do you have? So there are some concerns here. And I think we just got to hope that the Braves offense just keeps hitting. Because if they do that, they're going to have a chance.
Yeah, and you talk about 2 tough opponents. You got the Cardinals, and then you turn around and go right back home to play San Diego. That's not a lot of time off for the bullpen. Thankfully, they did get that day off last Friday, but it's not going to be pretty if these guys can't go out there and get outs. And the Braves offense is going to have to carry the day. Thankfully, they have so far. You bring up Acuna too. He had another. It was the day that him and Matt Olson went back to back. They almost went back to back again because Matt Olson hit that second home run, and Acuna was probably about 5 feet short of the wall. So his power's there. The offense can absolutely carry. But this is the time for them to be hitting well. They are hitting well, thankfully. I think I saw yesterday the only guy without a hit was Marcell Ozuna. He walked twice.
Yeah. So the offense is going to carry this team. And I think the Braves made the right decision on Schuster. Listen, I know a lot of people were high on Schuster out of spring training, but I know we both written a lot about Schuster over his minor league career. And he's never projected as a guy who's going to be an ace. He does not have overpowering stuff. So if he is walking guys, he is going to give up a lot of runs. And while we can say, hey, it's impressive that he made it through 4 2/3 against the Nationals and only gave 4 runs. I mean, he does that against any other lineup. He's out of the first inning, and it's not even close. And I don't think throwing him into the fire against the Padres is the right way to go about it. So I think the Braves made the right decision. I know a lot of people are like, we don't have any other guys to pitch. We got to send him back out there. No, you don't. I would rather the bullpen go out there and struggle against the Padres and maybe struggle in the entire series than just go out there and crush Jared Schuster's confidence, because that is what's going to happen. I mean, he was not going to go out there and toss 5 shutout innings against the Padres. He just wasn't. He just did not look like he was capable of doing that in his best outing. So I think they made the right decision there. And let's talk about Ian Anderson a bit too.
Real quick, before we move on, Brian Snicker did say if Shuster gave up one more hit or one more walk, he was going to be out of the game. And that would have been a huge tragedy. Thankfully, he did get those extra innings and got to pitch a little bit. But you're completely right. I'm totally fine with a bullpen game at this point. You know why? Because it's April. Not only is it April, it's the first week of April.
And not only that, the Braves bullpen is nasty. It has depth for days. So, I mean, they can
give you a chance to win.
Yeah. I mean, even Michael Tonkin came in relief of Jared Shuster and gave you like 3 scoreless innings. I don't know if that's sustainable, especially against better lineups. But hey, if you only need 1 or 2 innings, then you get to Jesse Chavez. There's a lot.
Chavez had a good start last year too.
Yeah,
I mean, he can do it.
There's a lot worse things that could happen. It's April. I'm not worried about it because Max Fried and Kyle Wright should be back in just a matter of days. And then all of a sudden, this looks like one of the best rotations in baseball. But it does show you. Alex Anthopoulos emphasized pitching depth. He's seen this team without pitching depth and what it can do. And 3-4 years ago, they had 10 quality, guys that could potentially major league pitchers. And all of a sudden we're sitting here in the first week of April and they have like 4. So you need a ton of guys. And that's why when I look around the league at a team like the Padres, great lineup. It's awesome. You want to know why I don't believe they're going to beat the Dodgers in the division? They have 3 starting pitchers and nothing else. One of those guys goes down for a significant period, which is almost likely to happen at some point. You're screwed. Like, you cannot win 100 games with that kind of starting pitching staff. So to win a division, to win 100 games, you have to have 30, 35 guys. And that's what Alex Anthopoulos has done. And that's why the Braves, can sustain their success with injuries like this.
Yeah, and you have to wonder if this is going to be the year where they make a big swing at a starting pitcher at the trade deadline, because you talk about the depth and I mean, you do have it. There are some guys that can come out there and give you some innings, but you brought up Ian Anderson, who we'll get to in a second, but he's a guy that you thought we were penciling in for him for the rotation for the next 6 years, and that's just not the case anymore. And you got to wonder if, they drafted some young guys this year to try to replenish the lower levels of the farm system. They'll have another draft, another solid draft, hopefully this year. And they might parlay those guys into a big time starting pitcher. We'll have to see how the market shakes out. It might be like last year when there really isn't that many guys available, but I don't think it's out of the question. They could just do their typical, we'll take some bad teams 2-3 starter and make him our 5, which isn't a terrible strategy, but I think they could take a big swing. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know about bigs. It kind of depends a lot about how Fried, if Wright comes back, if those 2 guys come back and Morton rounds into form, I have a lot of faith in this group. I think Spencer Strider's might be the best pitcher in baseball. I know.
Well, I got a future on him to win the Cy Young. And
so do I.
My UConn future last night. So
I don't think that is premature, man. I mean, I really think he's that good. And obviously we know what Max Fried can do when he's healthy. He looked great before his little hamstring tweak. And I think Kyle Wright's going to come in there and be a solid number 3. And then you have Morton at 4. You really only need 4 guys. I don't see the need for starting pitching, but they do need to figure out this 5th spot. And it looks bad because a guy like Ian Anderson, he looks done for, man. I mean, he's cooked. I mean, he threw his first start in Gwinnett, couldn't make it out of the first inning. It was worse than Jared Shuster's. It was on the same day, which is almost incredible. We almost had 2 guys not make it through the first inning. He gave up 3 homers, 6 runs, 0.2 innings. I'm sorry, man. And I think we both hate to say this because we were both big Ian Anderson guys. And talk about a guy with balls of steel, the way he performed on the big stage in the postseason, 1.26 ERA. He's lost it, man. And I think injuries, and I know he hasn't had Tommy John or anything like that, but I think those shoulder issues and those little arm issues, I think they've added up, man. And I just don't see it coming back, not anytime soon. And how much time do you really have when you have guys like Shuster that could be ready, when you have guys like Dodd that could be ready, when you have 4 other starters, and then you have the young guys coming up? I mean, at a certain point, the Braves are going to have to look at it and be like, hey, man, like, thank you for everything you've done, but we think it's better that you go on this journey with someone else.
It breaks my heart, too, because he's a good kid, great pitcher. I really love Ian Anderson, too. And it really pains me to see him struggle like this because we talk about it, man. He was nails 1.8 playoff ERA to this. And it's almost incomprehensible, but it happens all the time in baseball. Baseball probably more than any other sport. You see guys just fall off the face of the earth. And it happens to everybody. We've seen it with the Braves. We've seen it with Brandon Beachy. His was more injury related, but he was a guy that we thought was going to be a staple of our rotation for years to come. And the next day he's gone. But someone else that we haven't talked about that I don't think we are going to see. Mike Soroka's still hanging around. We keep forgetting about him, and it's easy to forget about him because he hasn't pitched in the better part of 2 years. But they're not going to rush him. But he is waiting in the wings. They'll probably see what he has in Gwinnett, see if he can put together a couple good starts in Gwinnett before they even consider something like that.
I completely agree with you, man. I mean, Mike Soroka, I know it was only one start we got to see from him in spring training of like 40 pitches, but when you talk about pure stuff, like the upside is still there with him, man. And I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think he's throwing harder than he ever was. He's got more bite. I think it's just a matter of building up some confidence, building up some arm strength. So I wouldn't be surprised if a month or two from now, if he pitches well. Now he's got to pitch well, but I don't think it has to be ridiculous. I don't think he has to go out there and have like a 2 ERA or 3 ERA. He has to build some confidence and show he can stay healthy and stuff like that. So yeah, they're not going to rush him, but all of a sudden, like, we didn't know how Mike Soroka was going to fit into this puzzle. It's becoming pretty clear and obvious now. If he can go out there and show who he was, he doesn't have to be the all-star, but if he can be anywhere close to that, he is going to be back in this Braves rotation. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
We're talking about a guy that has a 2.86 career ERA over 214 innings. Like, I think people really, outside of Braves fans, have really forgotten how good he was. They were calling the kid Maple Maddox for a reason, man. When he's on, he is on, but he has had so many terrible injuries, but he looked good in the spring. A lot of guys look good during the spring, but I have faith in him. I want to see him come back. It's a feel-good story, man. A torn Achilles, all the shoulder problems, and, just to see him come back and actually compete, it would be great. Regardless of how well he plays, even if he's not that 2.86 guy anymore, if he can go out there and give the Braves some quality innings, then I'll be happy.
I mean, he can be an innings eater and still provide a lot of value if he has a 4 ERA. Now, I really do believe, though, like at the end of the year, we could be talking about Mike Soroka in a much different light. Like the key with him is just health. I think his stuff is still there. From what I've seen, his stuff is still there. And how great of a moment will that be if they, 2 months from now, he looks pretty good. They call him up. They set it up for some nice, it might be against the Nationals, give him something, cupcake game at Truist Park. That place will be rocking. It'll be like a playoff atmosphere for his first start if he comes back to Atlanta in the next couple months or anytime this year. So that's a moment that I think Braves fans across the country are waiting for, and hopefully we get to see it at some point this season because he could really play a big role in this team.
Yeah, and it's not a flattering comparison, but I mean, I know you remember Aaron Harang when he was on the Braves. He ate up 200 innings, gave him a 3.5 ERA, sinker cutter guy. You don't have to have dominant velocity just to be a guy that can do that. And if he could come out and give the Braves a 3.5 ERA, I would be over the moon.
Yeah. I mean, 3.5 ERA, that would be outstanding. But like I said, it could be a 4 ERA, it could be a 2.5 ERA. I think the stuff's still there. The stuff to me is not an issue. Like the guy has a ton of talent. He's a hard ass worker. It's something you root for, and it's something you want to talk about, a boost to a team. Like if in 2 months we're in the heart of a playoff race and a grind, talk about something that wakes you up in the middle of a season and kind of breaks you out of that lull of a 162 game season, like Michael Harris and Spencer Strider did. He could come up and give you that kind of boost, especially if he performs like he did in the past.